I was just telling these guys, this is the coolest setup so far.
Yeah.
Like, graphic arts degree. He is in the recent Red Cloud Art Show. He took first place in digital art,
Hmm.
and he won Judge's Choice.
Hmm.
And recently, he has been a Sinew Fund recipient and over with the Zintkala Shah installation, the Garbage Tail Vintage. You can visit it downtown Rapid City.
Hmm.
And you were part of the We Are Still Here cohort as well, too, right?
Yep.
Ray, welcome. This is going to be exciting. All right, Ray, Janice, I've never seen you nervous.
Yeah.
And you're
Um,
like
um, I,
pacing around here. And
it's
like,
because of these. It's I like try to make my mind go somewhere else. It's like fast forward and get out of here.
it's interesting to visit artists because, like, I mean, just based on your work, you go into worlds, like you go into your own world
Hmm.
whenever you're creating.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just kick off with that. What what is it that you do to get into that headspace that creates this beautiful art that, like,
Hmm.
for example, here, I know you got like several different mediums, but right now, just like thinking about this, what
Yeah.
did it take to get there?
So, like these pieces, Dwayne actually approached me. It was at I think it was an art market, and he was talking about doing a show, and he wanted to be, he wanted to do things fast. And he said, like graphic art, you graphic artists, you could just knock out a billion stuff out. And I was like, yeah, kind of. Like it's still a lot of, still some work. And I was all like, all right. And so he showed me this image that he painted,
Mm,
and I was like, oh, I could do something with it. And in my mind, I started to think about what inspired me as a kid growing up, and I was really into like hip hop music and graffiti and growing up in like wild styles
mm,
and seeing people that could like make stencils of stuff and just go out and plaster them all over really fast.
yeah,
And so I start to think about that. And so I start to edit all of his stuff. And once you edit like all of the clothing and images, and then you can actually start playing with different stuff. And I sent him a few concepts, and these are the ones that he really liked. And I know for me, to, though, like whenever I do, because I've grown up in doing album covers and posters. I think that to me, that's what kind of influences me is when I think of like when I was a kid making stuff. Like I wanted it to be bright. I wanted it to pop and wanted to like stand out. So I always just think of like our world, how like everything now in like modernism is really plain. Like it's like
Yeah.
white. Everything's white or gray or muted. And so I wanted to stand out. And he gave me some, he's like, you can do what you want to do. I'm not gonna say what to do. And then he was talking about Andy Warhol, like all his inspirations. And then that's kind of what helped me out. I was like, oh, all right. So I was like, I'm gonna make some of that kind of art for this piece. And then on top of it, like when I'm not doing graphic art, when I'm like painting and stuff, it's almost like the same feel.
Mm.
Like I wanna. Keith said it. Keith had a cool quote because I was like,
Keith Braveheart.
Keith Braveheart. I took his painting class, and I wasn't good at painting. I wasn't very good at painting, and I always thought I have to paint um, chiefs or
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
do stuff like that.
yeah.
And then seeing him immortalize like people our age, and I remember he had a painting with Miko, and he was holding a big buffalo skull, and I thought that was so cool that like that's gonna live on past my lifetime.
Yeah.
And so I started to think about how I can incorporate like not only my culture but uh, people that are alive while I'm alive,
Mm.
and not just painting people that are dead and passed on from my life. So that's kind of what I started to paint, was like I wanted to paint people that are alive. Like I painted my brother and I gave it to him, and then he really liked it, and he's like, oh, how much? And I was like, just have it, like it's for you.
Yeah.
And most of the time too, like when I paint people, it makes me feel good because I get like a glimpse of like who they are, like
What do you mean?
like their character. What do they value?
Mm.
Like this winter break, I did a picture of my niece playing basketball. She really likes to play basketball. And then a bunch of people like start messaging me saying, "Hey, can you paint my kid?" And then I'll send you these pictures of like and get a glimpse of like who they are and
Yeah.
what they like, and like even like down to stuff that people probably don't notice, but like when you're drawing or painting these kids, like digital painting, uh, I like their shoes, and I was like, I think all these kids have like $500 shoes on, and like Kobe's, and I don't even know if they're alive when Kobe is alive. But I get to see that like that fashion aspect. But I mean, still, like if we even back these images, like his fashion, like
Yeah.
very modern and still very traditional at the same time. And I really admire stuff like that. So whenever I paint it, I really, maybe it's my own mind of thinking about who this person is.
Were you that kid in high school that like would like start nodding out and start drawing and
Yeah,
creating pieces, like literally masterpieces, and then you were like do
yeah,
it for somebody?
yeah. In middle school, uh, I really start to, well, probably like fourth and fifth grade, I noticed that I could draw well, and I could draw. This is Michael Jordan, Chicago Bulls. Everybody wanted a Chicago Bull
Yeah.
logo drawn
Yeah.
on their folders and stuff. And I knew that like I would draw it, and I was like getting good at like because it's repetitive, like just drawing it over and over.
Yeah.
Or the Wu Tang W, that was the other
Yeah.
one, the
Yeah.
Wu
I know
Tang
where you're
W.
at.
And then uh, what I started to notice, I would like in school in class, and I never understood note taking. Like I didn't like it. Like I didn't like sitting here writing
Yeah.
a bunch of notes. And I got why we did it, but I felt like whenever I would doodle, I would it would
You would
absorb.
process it.
Yeah, it would absorb more. And so I would like doodle while trying to take notes. Most of the time, I didn't understand my notes neither. He said this, or he said I like some teachers would kind of help you out to be like, remember this. And so I would write that, but
Yeah.
most of the time I was just drawing. And it was like either drawing my surroundings or like how it looks in the classroom, or looking at one of my friends and drawing them from a side view. But most of the time it was like doodle. There's like a word for it, but I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, I know what you're talking
Somebody
about.
said it to me, but it's where it's like artists and uh, visual and hands-on learners, they learn better by doodling and
Mm.
absorbing rather than writing stuff down. I guess that's kind of how I would say I would learn too.
So is that how it usually starts with you? Is like you're listening and you're processing, and all of a sudden something clicks with you, and you just kind of get on it and go with it, or or do you have something in mind every time you create?
I'm a I'm a very visual person, and uh, I think it's from my childhood. Whenever I think about things, like even like unintentionally, I'm always like observant of my surroundings and listening to people,
Mm.
not so much jumping in and like uh, trying to take over conversations. It's more or less just listening to people. And so whenever like Chuck was telling me all this, I really took it into what he wanted. But then I would like listen to Dwayne and his just every like conversating with other artists. And so I think about that as well.
Who are your favorite artists?
Mine?
Yeah. Don't got to do a top three or anything like that, but rack some off. It'd be kind of cool to hear who you think are your favorite
Uh,
artists.
my favorite artist. So we had a Keith Braveheart. This is the crazy thing. The only artist, like Lakota artist that I really knew about or like looked up to was Richard Redow.
Oh yeah.
And it was because it's my grandpa. I knew who he was, and I would see his artwork and see his process from. So that'd be like my top one. And then in Keith's class, he did a class where it was all not just only Lakotas, but all indigenous artists. And so like I got to see like T.C. Canning, Jim Yellowhawk, and Dwayne Wilcox, and seeing all of these other artists that are Vic Reynolds.
Yeah.
I remember going to the hospital and seeing Vic Reynolds' artwork on the wall, and it's like still there to this day. And I
Yep.
just think that's like immortalized for life. And so when I think about like artists, I used to always say, when I was a kid and no nonsense and just like to just dive into art, I was like Keith Haring. I really liked his artwork
Yeah.
because it was like street art.
It's
Yeah.
it's funny you say that because like my daughter right now, she's starting to develop as an artist and she's really getting into it.
Mhm.
And I think it was a couple years ago we were in Flandreau and my Uncle Dell, she was really admiring the horses coming out of I can't remember the screen or the painting.
Mhm.
And I said, "Oh yeah." She was just talking about it. And I said, "Here, come here, look at this." I took her to the bottom corner and I showed her name that said the name Iron Cloud.
Mhm.
Man, you should have just seen her face
Yeah.
just like change.
Yeah.
And so you kind of like do that whenever you see artwork like that.
Mhm. Yeah, like there's a lot of artists that I feel like I feel proud because like I come from the same place. I didn't think about it too. Like we did the uh I got a piece in the creation story here at the Doll whenever it was in town. And I didn't realize it neither. I was just happy to be in the show. And I had like I did the thing from Fantastic Four,
Yeah,
Ia, and I was like I remember I was walking around here. Tom Allen, he said, he's like Ray, and he's from Kyle. He's
yeah,
our grandpa too. And then I seen my aunt Dar and a lot of like my family, and I was like, dang. And then here, Tom pointed out that like five of the artists were from Kyle,
yeah.
and I was all like, what? And then he like named them off, and he said, must be something in our water that makes the artist in Kyle. And I was all like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I didn't realize it like, and
Because Utah Haka has got the
yeah,
artists, huh?
yeah. And I was like, I didn't realize that neither. Like Don Montelo was there, Richard Redow. There was a bunch of people there. I can't even remember all the people. I was just, I guess like, I felt like it like didn't solidify me, but made me feel appreciative and humbled that I was my artwork gets
Yeah,
hanging next to theirs.
yeah. Man, I don't know how many times I always, being the person I am and just kind of like all over in the art world, but I always like to look at upcoming artists. And for a while there, I found this difficult. And since you brought up Kyle, I thought about this. Why do you suppose it's so difficult for artists to emerge more recently? Because like I mean, I've seen your work and I've seen all the wonderful things you've done, and I am so impressed by your career. But like thinking back on that, like why do you suppose it's so difficult for artists to emerge out of a place like Pine Ridge Reservation?
I think our resources, uh, for me, I can only speak for me. I can't speak for everybody else. Me, whenever I was first becoming an artist, I didn't know that I was becoming an artist. I just was going to school and I was like, I want a degree so I could get a job. And I was like, I didn't, I didn't like working in the government as wellness. I was doing that for over 10 years.
Well, it's good seeing you
And,
dodge that bullet.
and it was like, I wanted to do something that I really like to do. Uh, but at the same time, I didn't learn about these things. Like, uh, I, it's like almost like I feel like it's almost like feel ashamed to say like I didn't know about Red Cloud Art Show, like these shows that are like more local,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and Keith and Marty, Keith Braveheart and Marty Tubals were like, uh, yeah, you guys, to a part of your to get your degree, you had to enter the show
Mm.
one time. And I was like real nervous because I didn't feel, especially painting, they're like, I didn't know that I could put in graphic art pieces. In my mind, I was like, I don't know, I don't really know how to paint that
Mm.
well. And then, so I think back at like, there's not really, and I think it's improved though, but I don't think that uh, there wasn't nobody there telling me to say, hey, like there's these opportunities for you.
Oh yeah.
You just need to go do them. And I feel like now though, there's like a bunch of artists, and especially since like I've I've gotten into art and like started my career professionally. I remember the first art market that I got in was the Black Hills Indian Art Market at the Doll,
How'd that feel?
and overwhelming because I didn't have art panels or I wasn't professional. I was like I showed up with like easels that had paint on them and like just real resi. Like I felt like this is me, real rezzed out. And then Don Montdale was my booth neighbor on this side, and Dustin Twist was my booth neighbor on this side.
Wow.
And it was the first time I really got to visit with them and then get to see their amazing work. And I had three pieces. This is like, I bought three paintings. They're like mixed media pieces. And here, it's the first time I met Jen White too. And she comes up and says, oh, I love your work. And like she pointed at it. How much? And I told her. And then she's like, I'll get those two. And I was like, oh, yes.
Inside you had to
Yeah,
like
let's go. And then somebody else came and bought like my last piece, and I was like, I felt like proud of myself. And then Don Motlow, he like comes up to me and he's all like, sold out. And I was like, yeah, yeah, proud of myself. And then he goes, you know what that means? And I was like, what's that mean? You sold them too cheap. And I was all like,
Oh.
I was like, oh, that stinks. Yeah, I told my wife that and she laughed. And I was like, well, in my mind too, I was thinking like, oh, it's like I spent about this much and this will get me home. And then you start to realize too, like even like on our relatives that sell their artwork like outside of stores and
Mm,
stuff, like we shortchange ourselves a lot. Like we just think this is what it's worth.
yeah,
Like this is how much it's worth. But we
yeah,
don't really think of like these are worth a lot. Like
yeah,
these are I can't put a price on them. And if you really ask me, and it'd be like I can't afford them.
yeah,
Like that's how I feel.
yeah.
But after that, after seeing that, I guess that's kind of what I would have to say though, is there wasn't like nobody mentoring me,
Mm,
and to it and it's not nobody's fault that they weren't mentoring me. I wasn't looking for that as well. I
yeah.
wasn't out there looking for somebody to mentor me.
You know, one of the challenges it seems like you went through was that understanding what art is.
Mhm.
And, you know, I kind of get that coming up in that digital. Earlier we were talking about Microsoft Paint,
Hmm.
and I mean, I remember creating worlds on Microsoft Paint, and then I heard same thing happened to me. Somebody come up to me and told me that's not art,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
and then how did it feel having to navigate almost creating a
Yeah.
new art?
Yeah. I grew up in the well, same time, like we're the same age. You knew if you was in school, they'd want to be in IT if you was a boy, or
Oh
the
yeah.
health field if you was a girl. Like those are kind of where they wanted you to be. They'd push you to those. And I was all like, I liked technology. I really did. Like I was going to like the NASA's program, like Stacey Phelps and them were like teaching us stuff like robotics,
Oh
and
yeah.
it was like to me it was like cool and engaging. And I remember I was in like gifted and talented program, and they were like took us to robotics up here, and to me it was like engineering and stuff was like really cool. I really liked art, and whenever like I found out like Mario or Mario Paint on the Nintendo, you try to use that stupid little ball thing in the mouse and try to paint something, and you never really look like how you wanted it to look. And then our mice got better, and we start to use like Microsoft Paint and paint stuff. And to me, it was like I remember I did a painting on the computer, and it was like of a person, and I thought it looked cool for what it was. Like,
Hmm.
and then the art teacher's like, "That's cool, but that's not really art." Like,
Oh
and I was like, "Oh, all right." Like, and you're a kid, and like you kind of listen to like, "Oh, well, they know
yeah,
better
they
than
know
me."
better than you, right?
And then I think back in that now, and it's like, well, professionally, I do that now, where I like still playing on a computer, making art, and people are like liking my art. I think to me that feels better than anybody saying that's not real art.
Mm.
And I think as a graphic artist, I really push like my art form into places that wouldn't be you wouldn't necessarily see them. Like you wouldn't see digital pieces in a museum. They would say, look down on these. This isn't the avant-garde would say this isn't art. This is
Hmm.
a computer could be generating this. They don't know, but it's still me. It's still my hand. It's still my thought.
Yeah.
And and so whenever I do things like the Red Cloud show, I seen other graphic artists that like I admire and I look up like Marlena Miles and Amy Miles' stuff. I was like, wow, it looks like how do they do that? How do they make it look so realistic? Like they're characters. And then I was like, to me, it made me feel like inspired
Hmm.
and to go back. And then I was like, all right, now I'm gonna go hard. And then how do I push the boundary of what I was doing? And like the piece that won at the digital art category, I did these aluminum die bonds, which these are what these are.
Yeah.
And then we layered them and we cut it out so it was a wagon. And we was talking about like westward expansion, and we did a wagon on fire, and then I did light so it lit up. And then I thought it'd be funny if I did like a real ornate frame that like if you've seen a real masterful painting on it, but it's just a digital.
Yeah.
And then I was like chrome, which I liked that it was chrome. And I was like I spent a lot on the frame frame of it, and I was all like, hopefully I do all right. And I was like, and then whenever we hung it, and then I was talking to Ashley about it, and I was like, I kind of don't want it to sell. Like I kind of want to,
Yeah.
I want it. Like even though I could make it again, and
Yeah.
like it was just like I want it. To me, it was something so cool, and I know like especially like whenever it's lit like this
Yeah.
in places, you don't get the full effect. But I remember whenever I first set it up and I hung it up, and I was like, we kind of dimmed the lights, and I
Yeah.
was like, I was inspired, and like, and then too to win, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool that my idea is kind of pushing our category forward, and then I'm really excited to see what other people do from that, and like it turned into these too, like with Dwayne, like getting Dwayne to do like digital
Yeah.
on aluminum, just basically like similar to a sign,
Yeah.
but.
That's amazing. So like you're just kind of channeling through these all your mediums.
Mhm.
Do you ever feel like it's more than just you, that it's
Yeah. I um mean like spiritually?
yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Let's go
Yeah.
there.
Oh,
Do you ever
yeah.
feel like your grandpa's guiding you on any of these?
No, my grandpa doing me out, saying this looks dumb. My grandpa wasn't really into the art. My
Mm,
grandpa was a Western cowboy, hardcore cowboy. A lot of his language wouldn't be allowed. But uh, I feel like whenever I used to make music, and whenever I would make music, some of the stuff that I would say and write, I'd be like, where'd that come from? Or
yeah.
where did that? And then I remember I watched uh, I think it was the Black Album documentary, and it was Rick Rubin and the Beastie Boys and Jay-Z all in a studio, and his studio was like, it was like this, and Rick Rubin's like, he's a really out there type of guy. Everyone's kind of
Mhm.
some, he has like a buffalo, like a mounted full buffalo in his studio. And then here he said, uh, when you're making music, he said, or like making art, he said, you just go in there and you just start working, and you leave the door cracked so God could come in and help you work. And I thought that was pretty cool because, like,
Mm,
to me, like some of the stuff that I even come up with in art, like I, it's pulling from all the depths of my brain of
mm,
like stuff like uh experiences, but like it might be like books I've read or movies I've watched. Especially when you're a kid, it's like video games you've played.
mhm,
And I always like I think that's what I reflect on more is and and to like go back to your question, I do feel like there's like to me, whenever I start to make my professional trek, like Sheldon Starr was on that same journey, and it's like seemed like we ended up at the same places. Like I remember uh, we was both in the same graphic arts program, and then here we both was in the We're Still Here cohort in Minneapolis. It was the only Oglalas, and I would forget that I was talking to people that weren't Oglala,
mhm,
and so I would be like, I would tell like some of our stories
mhm.
and be like, yeah, you remember right? And then they're like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I was like, oh yeah, you're a Ojibwe, yeah. Oh,
Oh yeah,
my bad, my bad. But I feel like Sheldon was on that same. A lot of the my peers that were in OLC, the graphic arts program,
mhm,
like I start to see them uh, like flourish. And I got to give credit to Sheldon too, because Sheldon was the one that showed me aluminum dye bond,
mhm,
and he's like, "Yeah, this is a digital piece I did," and it was like a long, his style, real '80s, and it like had like the flowers and the mark making, and I was looking at it, and I was all like, and then it like intrigued me of like, what else can you do? Like, what else can we make of it? Uh, but I know too that the uh, Oyate House Center. Uh, I think 4 out of the 5 people that got a mural put in there are like installation pieces in there. We're all OLC. Like,
really?
so Marty Tubles was the professor, the lead of the graphic arts program, and he had a piece in there. Me and Sheldon collabed on the big piece above optometry. Delana Uses Knife did a piece on by primary care. And so whenever I think about it, and I'm like, gee, all of these come from OLC, like that program really is like beneficial to our community to make an artist. And so to me, I always admire that. And so whenever I see like art markets or people getting awards, and then it somehow connects back to where I started, I feel good about that.
I remember once that I was at Denver March, and this guy comes up to me, and he was really happy to see me, and he was saying that he gave me, I don't know if his compliment was like accurate, but like the way he said it to me, he goes, "You live your you live your art," he said.
Mm.
He said that to me, and I was like, "That's cool." It made me feel all special, but it
Yeah.
was like, what art do I do? You know, and like
Mm,
started clicking. And it wasn't until recently it was Mary Bordeaux who was the one that was like, you know, butchering buffalo is an art.
mm,
And I could not for a long, I mean, even though I heard it, I could not like fathom how that's art.
mm,
And it got to a point where all of a sudden, like, it was like looking back at the whole thing after it's all done and over with, it was like, whoa, now I see it. Like having
mm,
perspective of all that.
mm.
I'm curious if you have those discoveries too, because like has art entered space where you wouldn't normally find it?
Yeah, I think a lot of things that I think about and just even how people live are like even like I always think of one of my cousins growing up. Uh, his life to me was like a art form because he was like one of those guys that kind of had an attitude all the time, and he was just always cool and like. And so I think about that. Like I think about not only people, but I, graphic art and graphic design. We always got to pull art from everywhere. We got to try to make something like they're like go be creative, and then you got to just be like they'd be like something that's not really to
Yeah.
me like oh, that might not be that interesting to a lot of people. How do I make it more interesting and captivating? Uh, I do find that a lot. I don't necessarily think like maybe my life isn't like super interesting. I'm an old man. I've and then when I tell like other people stories of like stuff that I like went through, and they're like, "Gee, you lived different like a lot of different lives." Because then you think about it too. Like I was like doing data research in the health field, and then I made music when I was younger, and then you don't realize it until you look back and like you have that perspective of like, gee, it's kind of cool. I'm a little bit interesting, I guess. But while you're living, you're just to me, I don't know. I don't know if it's just me or if every artist feels like this, or maybe it's just my ambition. I always like I'll finish something and then it's like I want to do the next thing. Like I
Hmm.
want to feel that. I want to feel that feeling again. So it's like when I first sold out at the art market, and then the next time I didn't do good at it. Like I raised my prices, and then like nobody's like, oh, that's too much. They kind of don't want to buy that.
Tell me what it feels like when you crash, like whenever, you know what I mean, down at the
Yeah.
dumps, and especially with this world, because it's
Mm,
so easy to abandon art and say, I'm gonna go be a data field technician or whatever it
yeah.
is, you know, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I,
What is it? How does Ray crash? And how do you
uh,
deal with it?
so before whenever so I didn't realize this neither. I would my wife probably noticed it before I did. Is I would like it's almost like numbing yourself, but with like, so everybody has their own addiction,
Hmm.
and I always tell people this, like even like video games is an addiction,
Hmm.
and your phone like doom scrolling is an addiction, and I would just play video games, and it'd be like I'm not playing this video game to be a pro or anything, like
Yeah.
I'm just playing it because I say I enjoy it, but then you ask my wife, I'm in there like cussing around,
Yeah.
stupid game, and
Yeah.
don't but I feel like whenever there was times where I felt like I don't want to make art. I like people don't to me I felt like that first time of selling out and then too like especially getting into like where it's like judge shows where people get to judge your art. And I know that it's biased and it's not necessarily biased, but it's people's own opinion. So today they might like my stuff, tomorrow they might not like my stuff. They're like, "Oh, I've seen it already. I don't want to see it no more." And so it's like you have to balance that in your own head. I think mine, what I do is uh, I do graphic art. So like as a job, you have to be creative all the time, and you gotta be way like you gotta be innovative. So you gotta try to think of new ways. For me, I feel like whenever I guess like you could say crashing out, it was more or less like, all right, I'm not drawing today at all. I'm not painting today at all. I'm not on my, not even like, and it's so easy for me, like, because I'm a digital artist that I could carry my iPad and like draw on my iPad whenever I want, or I carry field notes on me and draw on my field note whenever I want.
Yeah.
But even then, it was like I don't want to draw at all. And then too, you think about it, I would get stuck into that comparison, like when like first started, and I would look at other people's booths and see them just like selling out, or they're doing really good art and really appreciate their art. And then I look at mine and then I start to like self-sabotage my own, like it's
Yeah,
not that good. Like,
right.
oh, I see all the flaws that I made, and then people would be like, oh, it looks good. I like your stuff. But I think that to me, that's the worst of what I get. Mine is, and then I realized it. Felicia would probably tell me every day that you're on your Xbox or whatever.
Yeah.
And like one day I just was in my room and I was like, I deleted all my stuff off of it
I was
and I
just gonna get to
unplugged
that
it.
for you. I was gonna ask you.
I unplugged it and put it in the closet. And then I start to like look at stuff uh that I like to do, like model cars and trains, and not necessarily like everybody don't really enjoy that, or like it's not like a, to me I feel like it's an art form, but it's not like a art form where I can have like a bunch of displays of like my stuff.
Mm,
It was more or less, this is what I like to do. I like
hmm.
to, and so I would do that and instead. And then I start to think it like uh, not only like passing on my knowledge was like, but like Aviana, I would like teach her how to do some stuff too. Like, and she would, and I kind of knew that it was like coming across her because kids would be like, oh, look at my drawing, or look at my painting, or whatever it might be. And she would say, look at my art piece. Like she
Oh,
already
that's
had that
dope.
concept of like, these are pieces. And then she would say to me, which made me feel cool, is whenever we do it, should we sell it to somebody?
Oh, that's dope.
And I said, it's an artist already, like me. I'm like sitting here like trying to feel bad for myself, but she's like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna sell it. And so I thought that's kind of cool. Like that her mindset is I want to make art for people,
Yeah.
not just for myself.
So, thinking about like our communities and where we're from, there's the Tubuls, there's names out there and families. Do you think it's in our blood? Do you think that like there's just certain people that know, like in their families,
Mm.
like there's this artist inside of them?
Yeah.
But then, yeah, tell me your thoughts on this because I'm curious because you just named off a whole bunch of people from your family, and
Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think art's in our blood?
I think so before I like really start to take art serious and I like would think back on like what I was doing as a kid, like painting model cars and trains and spray painting stuff that I shouldn't be spray painting, and creating art. I never really thought of like I'm an artist. I just thought I like to do that. Like everybody would draw the S on everything,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever that S was. And then I think it wasn't until I got serious about art and I really start to like study not only in school but on my own, and I realized like Lakotas are like naturally artistic, like no matter what we do. And then I start to like think back of like you were saying, like these roles that we have in our communities, those are artistic as well. Like how we perceive might be a problem, we figure out the solution, and we're very adaptable people. And I didn't really think about it like that. Like, when did we become artistic, or when did we decide we was artistic? And I can't say that for sure when that was, but I do feel like once I seen Sitting Bull right, or like drawing his own battles, and I was like, oh, stinks, that's cool. Like, imagine like we get to see from his perspective of what he was doing.
Yeah.
And I think to me, that's all we're trying to do is we're trying to tell the world, hey, we're here. Like this is what who I am.
Mm.
And I think even as a great of a chief Sitting Bull was, like he was still saying that, like, hey, like this is who I am. And he would draw his things. And I remember seeing that and I was like amazed. I was like, because in my mind, my adolescent mind, I was just like, oh, Chief Sitting Bull or all of our great chiefs, all in my mind, I was like, they're warriors. Mindset's a
Yeah.
warrior every day.
Yeah.
Like they all they're thinking about is how they're
Be
gonna,
a warrior.
be a warrior, and like, and I never really took the time to really think about who, like, personally, these are human beings, and they're just like, they want to express themselves too, and want to let the world know who they are too, like all of us. Like, so that's kind of to me, I feel like people say, I always, well, everybody, I think every artist in here knows that whenever you have an artist booth and then somebody will come to your booth and they'll be like, I really like that, but I can never draw that. And you hear the one thing, I only could draw a stick man.
Hmm.
And I don't believe that at all.
Mm.
There was a time when I only could draw a stick man, but I think with all of us, it's just that repetition and that repetition and oh, is it locked? Oh, the door locked.
Anyway, yeah, please
Yeah,
continue.
yeah. I just think we're all artists, no matter what. Like,
Mm. I like that. I like how you said that. We're all artists. It's one of those things that like I found um I never whenever I was a kid, I remember I used to like to draw mazes,
oh yeah,
like
yeah.
create mazes, and I would create all these like imagery with it, and I would draw these mazes. And I remember one time, I don't know if you know Collins Clifford, but
Yeah.
I was showing him that I was really proud of it, showing it to him, and I showed it to him, and here he took it and right away with a permanent marker, started drawing the
Oh,
path. Oh my God, I got mad. I got mad. I crumpled it up. I pushed him out of the way. I threw that away, and I was just like irritated with it.
yeah.
And I was wondering about that earlier because you said you deleted things before. Do you ever get to that point where you're just like you're so angry you take what you created because it's not getting its due or whatever, and you just like, I'm done with it. You ever get done with it?
Yeah. Painting. Painting's hard. To me, like I I really only really painted like for since like 2019.
Mm,
And so I'm really young, and I for me too, whenever I was learning and they'd always talk about layers, I had a graphic arts mind, and so I was like, all the layers on the side of like Illustrator and Photoshop. And then I didn't get it. Like, and it's still in my head too. It like still it's hard for me to like switch out of that. And even like I told you earlier, like mixing colors, I hated that. I still hate that. I'm like, give me a tube that just has the color that I want. I don't want to mix colors. But yeah, like there's times when I don't want to. There's things that I have that are in my house that are like paintings that they're not done. They'll probably never be shown to anybody. I'm always gonna like even some of them, like I painted my grandma once, and when I looked at it, didn't look like my grandma. Like
yeah,
it like wasn't like how I wanted it to. Like I wanted to make it look exactly like her. And doing realistic photos of people is really hard.
yeah.
And so I was like, I I grabbed gesso and I just gessoed over all of it. And I was like,
Oh,
I don't like it. And then I started over, and then it got better, but it wasn't like I'm gonna show this to anybody. It was more like, okay, I still need to practice and still
yeah.
need to work. And I would buy those I used to buy the cheap smaller canvases,
Mm,
and the stupid wood in the back would like you would paint and it would touch it, so it'd make a dark spot,
yeah.
and it would irk me. And then I start to buy the professional canvases, like the gallery wrapped ones. And then Keith is like, you can make your own. You can make your own and wrap it. And then I was all like, but who has time for
Uh,
that? That's another thing I got to learn on my own. But
you have to set time aside for those
yeah,
things.
and it's cool. I mean, there's times whenever I feel like though, like my art, even like graphic art that I've worked on, and like some of it, like I look at old like album covers I've done and like didn't know nothing about like color correcting or anything. So then like if you're light complected, you was really light, and if you was a little bit dark, you was really dark. And I look at them and be like, geez, and people bought these from me back then. That was horrible.
Oh,
Like, I just hope that they didn't. Nobody saved them. Hopefully.
oh man. Well, everybody, thank you guys all for coming. For everybody online, thank you very much for watching. This is the Racing Magpie winter series. We're interviewing artists. Last week we had Autumn White Eyes with her spoken word, and next week we have Jim Yellowhawk, and right now we're speaking with Ray Rockboy Janis. Right now, what I like to do is I like to go right into our right here. If anybody has any questions, if not, I got one locked and loaded. But I wanted to like just invite you guys to join in at this point, and then we're kind of coming to an end of our interview here. But like, does anybody have any questions that they wanted to ask Ray while we got him?
I know you mentioned that piece of the creation story. It seemed to be like it was the intergenerational artists in that show, and you being one of the younger ones, and asked to participate in what I call a cultural subject, I guess. What did you feel about being in there? Is there anything that you walked away with after being a part of that, or still being a part of that?
Yeah. I really, to me, it like solidifies like our creation stories. And some stories too are like brand new to me. And seeing other artists' interpretation of these creation stories, uh, for me, I was thinking of ways where um I grew up in like the 90s, like 90s and 2000s. I I could say I was in the 80s too, but I don't really remember. I was like young. But I always think of like what I seen on TV or what comic books were out, and I always thought too, I was like, I know like some games they'd say there's like a Native American character, and it was always real like cliche character. And I was like, what if these characters were like still like whenever I like start to think of like Ben Grimm and the Thing, and I was like, what if that was like a real thing? Like, but what if like we didn't have to make him have any feathers on, or he didn't have to have a breastplate on to be native? Like, what if that's just who he was? And then too being part of the Fantastic Four and like connecting like secret numbers, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then Ben Grimm just seems like he's like a tough guy. Like, and then I start to think like, well, what if that we could connect that back to us, like in being Lakota, and not really having to uh, make a Skoden character where it has to be everything's real pan-indigenous. And so I really appreciated the creations story and that whole exhibit. And I have ideas too, like for the future of like what I wanted to do, not just only with Ia, but other characters
Mm.
and playing off other things. But I always thought about that. Um, I wanted to, for me, it felt like whenever I go to see these great artists and all of their great work, and I was like, well, what is my role? Like, what can I be? How can I talk to somebody? And I started to think like, oh, what if I was like a kid in here? What would I like? And so I start to think about video games and comic books and TV. And so I was like, these kids would probably connect more if I had like a character that they might know. Like like right now it'd be like Fortnite, right? 'Cause our Roblox, our
Mm-hmm.
Minecraft, like and and my time was like comic book era. Like and we get it all the time now. Like it's like oversaturated. We have about 1 billion Marvel movies out but back in the day it was like
Oh no,
he
you
had
had to look for those
yeah.
comic books. Yeah, find those
Mm,
cards.
yeah. But that's kind of how I felt. Like I felt it was an honor to be at least in the same wall with some of these great artists. And it's like uh Funny story too is when we went a day before to look at the art, and I did two art pieces. They're both Ia, and they both had BIA cops, but I had them with super soakers, so I was like a neepy, like how you pour water on a rock. So I was like, you're fighting the thing with a super soaker gun. And so I painted them, and then here when we went before, because I just wanted to see before everybody was there and take it in. And here Aviana, she's she walks in and she sees it. It's all the way across the room, and she kind of ran up to it. Your art piece, and she tried to pull it down. I was like, oh, whoa, whoa. And she knew that was our art piece.
That's cool.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of like she recognizes like things that I don't think that she would recognize. I think that's what inspires me too, because she's taken in stuff and you get her little perspective on things too as well. Yeah.
That's cool. Anybody else have any questions?
I have a question. Do you see yourself transforming yourself as an artist to full time?
Yeah. I feel like I've been full time. I feel like I don't have no time. I still I work and then I do like art shows and art markets, and especially like when you commit to being in art markets, you have to really think about how almost like commercialize yourself in your artwork. So you gotta, how can I make something and keep making that thing fast? Because I have these people. And then sometimes it's like, oh, I painted a piece, then I'll make a print of it. And then sometimes I won't make no print, and then it's the one that everybody wants, but I just feel like it devalues the original piece as well. So there's like that fine line of like trying to be professional and still be creative without running out of ideas or like getting stuck into the same old, I guess. But
Whenever I do interviews, I remember when I first got started, it was horrible, man. It wasn't good at all. But um, I've done them so often that I'm able um, to I don't know, adjust myself to whatever situation that we're in an interview now. And I wonder about your art. This is probably like my last question here, but like I wonder about your art. Do you start on something and then had an entire plan for it, but then because it didn't work out in that manner, that you moved it over to something else and it becomes something else?
yeah.
Because what I do in an interview is if it's not going well, I'm a dig. I'm a dig. And
Yeah.
I'm curious how you do your work in that manner.
Yeah. I think all of us, whenever we set out with a plan, and like anything, it doesn't go right all the time. And do you have setbacks? Are like early in my career, I realized cheap paint there's a reason why it's cheap. And whenever you try to paint something with cheap paint and then it messes up, and then they like are like one time this happened to me, and I'm still frustrated about it. As I painted a piece. It was my grandpa, and I used some cheap paints on it, and then I went to varnish it with like golden varnish, and then it had like a chemical reaction, and so it like messed it up. And then I was like, what can you do with it? Because it was like really bad.
Yeah.
Like, and it wouldn't dry. Like it would just like you touch it and it would just wipe off. So I think about all of those types of things, and I think for me, whenever stuff like that happens, like I try to like readjust and maybe start a new one. Like, I'll work on a new one. And sometimes it just to me it's like frustrating that I'm like I don't want to do it. Maybe there's a reason why my grandpa didn't want to be on a painting. Maybe I don't know. But
Now you're getting into it.
yeah, I to me it's like anything though. Like I feel like if you plan it out, there's a lot of my artwork that was just off of the cuff. Like I just wanted to make something. And so I just would start making stuff. And then what I found out is not only like I had a bad habit of telling people my plans before they were done. And then sometimes I would see my stuff, my ideas in somebody else's stuff. And that's fine too, because you're still not me. You still didn't, my idea still didn't resonate,
And what you did, whatever it
and
was.
whatever I did is still my stuff. And so it does, like at first it kind of would get to me, but now I'm like, it don't really bother me. It's like, oh, that's okay. Like they're trying to find out who they are as well. But now I feel like uh, if you really plan out your ideas and at least try to stick to them, and I know we have to adjust them for some stuff, but I feel like to me, even like whenever it's like collaborations, like I've done collabs with Jim and Dwayne and like these type of things, just listening to them and their feedback and their perspective kind of gives me new ideas. And so I feel like for me, that's kind of like I always like looked up to like these guys as artists as well, and never would have thought like I would have a piece done with them. And so whenever I have these opportunities, I'm real grateful because then it teaches me too, like not only humility, but to pay it on. So like now who thinks that anybody special? And so now I want to work with younger people that are, and like I always see the next gen of artists like doing manga or like Japanese inspired art. So you'll see like characters that are more Japanese style, but then it's like it's their take on being Lakota.
Mm,
And I like that because it's like pushing us in a new direction too. But and I'm like I can't wait till like that next artist
to see what's coming.
yeah, to see what's coming. But also, can we collab?
Can we
Can we
collab?
collab on it?
I like that. All right, Ray. Well, thank you very much,
Mm.
Ray. I really appreciate this conversation.
Oh,
Oh, what's up? Okay.
So bucket list art goals from Tyler.
Bucket list art goal.
mm. I want to have one piece of my art in like a museum that I probably never would be in, like Denver Museum of Art or like in
Oh,
New
you're like the
York.
Field Museum or
Yeah,
something like that.
like somewhere where I'm not supposed to be. I think that'd be kind of cool to have a piece in one of those places. I remember I went to the Denver Museum of Art and like I seen Monet, and then like I got to see one of Keith Haring's pieces in there as well. Like there's like a side exhibit and just being in there, and I was all like, what if something of mine was in here? And I was like really looking at the walls. And then like the only indigenous stuff they had were like 1800s beadwork and stuff like that. And they were
Mm,
like, and then I was like, I wonder if they know we're still here and like we're
wow,
still
that's
alive.
cool. That's cool. That's cool to recognize that.
Mm.
Yeah, anyway, Ray, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you everybody who came in today. I really appreciate you guys coming here and joining the conversation. Next week is Jim Yellowhawk, and today we have been speaking with Ray Rockboy Janis. This is the Racing Magpie Winter Series, and we're talking with artists and we're having talking conversations with them. So, all right, we're done. Thank you guys. Thank everybody. Right on.